Okay, great. So this is the pre-bid webinar for the Michigan Transfer Network RFP that we released on May 9th. Today, we are going to walk through the project overview, and then we'll have a look at the current Michigan Transfer Network. We'll review the vision for our current project and what we're calling the replacement of the Michigan Transfer Network. We'll look at some inspiration from other states, and then we'll refer back to the RFP and your questions. Speaking of questions, you should be able to see in your Zoom tray where you can join the conference. When you click more, you should be able to see a chat button there, and you can type a message in there, and that's where we are asking you to enter your questions. My colleague Felipe Gonzalez will be monitoring the question pane. If there are simple questions that we can answer now that may just be clarifying questions from the RFP, we'll go ahead and answer those now. And if there are more detailed questions that we need to consider, we will note those questions and then post them on the website at mytransfer.net /Michigan Transfer Network. If you have other questions that you have, then please email those to me at eoriens@mcca.org. The question deadline is on May 24th, and then we'll be able to get those questions posted again on the website at mytransfer.net. So that's how we'll be handling questions. The first thing I want to do is provide you with an overview of the Michigan Transfer Network replacement and our Degree Pathways project. A group of folks from colleges and universities across Michigan have come together to improve outcomes to advance student success and degree completion, and specifically to increase associate and bachelor's degree completion among transfer students from all backgrounds through collaboration among our colleges and universities and engagement with faculty and higher education administrators. Our objective is to make the overall transfer experience more efficient, easy to understand, and simple to navigate while optimizing credit transfer. Throughout this project, we have identified 6 strategies that we're focusing on. The very first strategy is what we're talking about here today, which is to replace the Michigan Transfer Network. We will also be developing multi-institutional associate to bachelor's degree transfer pathways. And what that really means is that students would be able to start at a community college, complete an associate degree, transfer to any participating institution, and then complete their bachelor's degree. Whereas right now, the agreements that we have across the state are typically one-to-one agreements between institutions, and we want students to have more options. We're also working on a national project to align mathematics requirements within programs of study. We would like to increase awards of academic credit for military experience. So when students leave when people exit or leave the military, they often have had training that we may be able to award academic credit for that training or that experience. So we would like to increase those awards and have a couple projects related to that. We also know that many colleges and universities are doing great things related to transfer, and we want to spotlight those best practices. And then we also want to produce and utilize data on transfer student outcomes so that we're focusing our efforts in areas where we'll see the greatest return and where we see the greatest need among transfer students. As I said, our first strategy is to replace the Michigan Transfer Network. And to provide you with a little bit of history, the Michigan Transfer Network was created by the Michigan Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers in 2007-2008 time period as a way for students to be able to look up how their courses transfer from one institution to another. It was hosted and continues to be hosted at Michigan State University. But for several years, we've known that the Michigan Transfer Network needs to be replaced. It sits on old technology. We need more modern technology. And we are also looking for some increased functionality that would make the transfer experience better for students. The screenshot that I'm showing you here is from michigantransfernetwork.org, and it's the main landing page for the Michigan Transfer Network. As we continue clicking through the MTN, I just want to demonstrate a little bit about what students do on the MTN. And its greatest functionality is that students can search for courses. And so I have clicked on search by receiving institution or transferring from institution. And what I'm able to do is select the institution where I'm transferring, the subject and course number, what I want to apply, how I want, what course I want to get credit for at that institution. And then I can look up the institution where that course would be coming from. And when I do a search like that, I'll see a list of course equivalencies between receiving institutions and sending institutions, or in this case, receiving institutions and transferring institutions. So quite simply, students are able to see how courses transfer from one institution to another. There's also additional functionality on the website where students can look up participating institutions, and if you click on any of these institutions, you'll be able to find additional information about their transfer sites, about contact information, and who students can reach out to as they're looking for additional transfer information. But the current MTN is fairly simple in its scope. It's very much focused on looking at those course equivalencies. So the project that we're interested in focusing on is really a completely new Michigan Transfer Network website. And using some of our language from our objectives, we really want it to be easy to understand and simple for students to navigate. We want the new site to have a modern look and feel. We know that students need to be able to use the site from a computer, a laptop, a mobile phone, or a tablet as well. So we want it to be optimized for that kind of experience for students. We also would like the new MTN site to include a public site, very similar to what you've just seen, that's intended for students, advisors, and other stakeholders to use. And then we also want to have an internal site which will allow users to upload data and to view and run reports on the data in the course equivalency database. So let's talk a little bit about the public site. So first, one aspect of that public site that we'd like to include is a course equivalency database. So that course equivalency database allows us users to search the database to find courses that transfer from institution A to institution B, just like we demonstrated a little bit earlier. We want students to be able, or users to be able to search by a number of factors in the database, including sending institution, receiving institution, department and course number, keyword, or other attributes determined by the final database design. So we want that search feature to be much more robust and students to be able to search by a variety of different factors. Since the Michigan Transfer Network was created back about 10 years ago, Michigan institutions signed the Michigan Transfer Agreement, which allows students to transfer a block of 30 credit hours to meet the general education requirements at participating institutions. Right now, that information is housed on a different website, and we would like to be able to link to a database or tables that link to colleges so students are able to look up their Michigan Transfer Agreement courses. So another feature that we would like, or an enhancement that we would like to include on the new website, is a way for students to see which courses are eligible for the Michigan Transfer Agreement. Right now, that information is linked through the website of the Michigan Association of Collegiate Registrars and Admissions Officers, but we would like for that information to be this My Transfer website, to be a place where students can get one-stop information about transfer, or at least a landing page where students can get information about transfer. As part of this work, we also are developing these multi-institutional transfer pathways. And we would like students to be able to find information about these pathways on the website as well. So students will be able to see in the first bullet here how their courses transfer, in the second bullet how their general education can transfer, and in the third part of the page here and reflected in this bullet is how they can complete an entire associate degree before they transfer. So we'll be providing all of that information on the public site. In addition, I expect that we'll have several pages that, more static pages that aren't necessarily linked to a database, where students would be able to find information. They'll be able to find, static information about the website and about other information that they may want to get to. We also want to have an internal site, and this would be for users from colleges and universities. So those users at colleges and universities are typically folks that might work in the registrar's office, they might work in offices of institutional research, where typically they're doing two activities on this internal site. The first activity is submitting data. So we'll need a secure site where approved users from colleges and universities can upload the data into various tables that will be on the site to view, to upload the data for their institution. So the system will need to identify secure users with all those necessary security requirements. And this is so the data submission is where institutions will upload on a fairly regular basis. I would say institutions would upload between once a week, once a month, or once every 6 months would likely be the frequency with which institutions would upload data. We also would like to have a fairly robust, for our standards, a fairly robust user reporting system. So essentially that colleges and universities would, or approved users from colleges and universities would be able to log onto this site and access canned reports or be able to run custom reports. In the RFP, we outlined what some of those reports might be, from everything from downloading the contents of the entire database, so they may be able to use that in a BI tool on their campus to do some analysis, down to when receiving institutions upload new transfer equivalencies, the sending institutions that are affected by that would receive a report notifying them that some of their equivalencies have been updated. We expect that we would outline more detailed requirements of these reports once we select a company to work with and start to move down this path. But we also would expect that these reports would be available on demand, but we would also like possibly these reports to run nightly, so that, and then sent to someone through an email or some kind of other secure method where they would be able to get this information. The purpose of these reports from our perspective are really to facilitate the submission of quality data into the database. None of this data is really, there's no PII associated with this data, so it's not, the level of protection isn't quite as high as if we had a student information system that had PII in it. But we would, the purpose of this is really to help us get a better sense of the quality of data that's in the database, and so that institutions have a way of essentially querying the database so that they have a better sense of if quality data has been submitted by their peers and if they have submitted quality data. So that is in summary, and of course there's more detail in our RFP, but we also wanted to share with you some inspiration from other states. There are many other states that are working on transfer. We're just one of those states. And so we refer to these in the RFP as well. But for example, here is a screenshot of the landing page of the Massachusetts transfer website, which they call Mass Transfer. We think that this has a modern look and feel. Students come to this landing page, and up here in the right-hand corner, they have pretty clear idea of what they're able to view on the site. They're able to move through these tools. The tools they have here would be the course equivalencies. The Gen Ed Foundation would be what we referred to earlier as the Michigan Transfer Agreement. And then the A2B degree would be what we referred to before as the My Transfer Pathway. So very clear information about what students are able to see. Massachusetts, if we continue down into their site a little bit more, this is an example of one of those static pages that they have that talks a little bit about the institutions in the state through this nice looking map of Massachusetts, and then provide some static information for students about the structure of an associate degree and a bachelor's degree and how students can complete those requirements. So we would want to provide some static information on there as well. Moving over to another example from South Carolina and their Transfer and Articulation Center. They have another nice look and feel on their website, very clear what students are able to do. Look up participating institutions and potentially find information on those institutions' websites. So this page links out to those participating institutions. They've done this in a little bit of a different order, but they have those transfer agreements that we've referred to as the My Transfer Pathways, transfer courses where students can look up those course equivalencies, and then they provide students with some information about planning their transfer experience. If we go a little bit more deeply in the South Carolina website, we can see their search features, which they have a very simple search feature where you can transfer from a certain college or transfer to a certain college. And then they have advanced search options down here as well, where students are able to type in a subject or a course prefix or a course number and be able to search more clearly, or search by those other search features as well to be able to receive their results. So these are the kinds of search features that we would be interested in students having access to, and all users of the site. This is another example of the Michigan Colleges Online, which was a website developed a couple years ago within the Michigan Community College Association. And the purpose of this website is for students to be able to look up online courses that are offered at any of the participating institutions. But we also like the look and feel of this site, where students can clearly see up here at the top the various different ways that they can search for the information that they need, and that we would be able to spotlight certain information here in the middle of the page we really want students to focus on, as well as finding links to the participating institutions that participate in Michigan Colleges Online. Similarly to the internal site that we referenced before, Michigan Colleges Online has a website for staff that are, and members are able to log in here with their username and password. But there's a lot of information out here, and this is where we would expect that we would want to put information about when we would be developing training materials for faculty and staff at institutions. This would be available on here. If there are special links for faculty and staff, we would want to include out here. But then we also want to be able to have a secure login for them so that they're able to upload their data and view their reports on here as well. So many of you saw in the RFP, so our plan is for this new website that we're referencing in the RFP will be mytransfer.org. We also have a website called mytransfer.net, which right now is really designed to provide information about, as we're developing these projects, this website that I'm showing you right now is designed to share information with users at colleges and universities, stakeholders at colleges and universities. And this is where we place the RFP that we posted on May 9th. This will also be where we, you can get an electronic copy of the RFP. It's the end of our formal part, and so I would invite you to see if please feel free to email those to me, and we will post those on the website. Not a requirement of the RFP. Students will not be creating a profile on the new MTN website. And we will include the response to that question on our site as well. A question from John. Is there a need for any of the existing MTN data to be imported into the new system? We will definitely respond to that question, but as of right now, no, we would expect that institutions would be uploading a brand new file into, there won't be any data that will be imported from the old website. Jim asked, is there a preferred content management system, CMS, you're hoping to build this on? We will note that question and post the response to that on our website. Sorry, Jim, I can't answer that now. Jim asked, how important is having conversion goals and analytics set up on the new site? We will record that question and we'll respond to that on the website. John asked, would college admins be setting up other college users to access the reports and upload data for their institution? We will record that question and respond to it on the website. All right, we'll give it another couple minutes for questions, and then if there are other questions, you can email them to me at eorians@ncca.org. And John has one last one. There is a mention of a staging environment. Would this just be to allow colleges to review their data before pushing live, or would the push of live data be done by a system admin? Great question. We will post that to the website. While we're capturing those last questions, I'll just go ahead and refer over here to the RFP with our schedule of events. And so we released the RFP on the 9th. Today, of course, all of you let me know if you wanted to join us for the pre-bid meeting on the 16th. Today we are having the pre-bid meeting. We're asking if you please submit your questions by the close of business on May 24th. And we will be posting those responses to those questions online by Friday the 25th. The submission deadline for the RFP is Friday, June 1st. We'll be reviewing those those 2 weeks between the 4th and the 15th. And we'll be beginning conversations with vendors the week of the 18th. So our expectation is for some folks, we will want to have a conversation with you about possibly having some questions about your bid. And then we're planning to make our final decision by June 29th. And then work would begin upon completion of a contract. So with that said, so Eric asked, is there any specific response format as in specific sections, or is a PDF response that the only requirement for the response format? Correct. The PDF is the only requirement for the response format. You can use whatever format you typically use for these kinds of things. And then, like I said, all other questions can be sent to eoriens@mcca.org. And I hope this information was a little bit helpful for you, and we will look forward to your submission. And so with that, I will go ahead and end the webinar. Thank you. Have a great day.